Today I want to take a look at double stop bends, and that's when we're going to take an interval, double stop with two notes on adjacent strings, and we're going to bend one of the notes into to make a different interval than what we're holding. So say right here I've got a perfect fourth. I'm going to bend the lower note to make this perfect fourth into a third, a minor third. This is a common sound in country licks, in rock and roll, and in blues. There's a lot of different applications for these ideas. So what I want to do is run through some of the most common ones that you'll hear so you can incorporate those into your playing in case you are new to this idea. And I also want to show some of the less common, interesting ways that you can apply this concept. So let's jump in and take a look. We're going to do a lot of this today in the key of A. We're going to start here with our open A chord, and I'm omitting the first string. I'm just playing with my first finger, the bar, at the second fret to make the regular open A chord. And why I'm starting here is because this is a typical place where we'd find one of our most common usages of the double stop bend, and that is what I just demonstrated before. Take a perfect fourth, which is B on the fourth fret of the third string and E on the fifth fret of the second string, and we're going to bend. We're going to play those together and bend that B up to a C sharp. So now instead of a perfect fourth, we have a minor third. And a typical way you'd hear that resolved is back down to like a fifth, the power chord here. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. You can do it all together. Or like I did individual notes, picking back and forth. There's a couple cool sounds you can make out of this. And in this position we have another option, which is adding the root note, the A on top. So I bar with my pinky and doing the same thing. So then I'm taking this chord, which is stacked fourths, and making an A major triad by just bending this B into the C sharp again. This is a fun sound, especially in kind of a country type setting, but also applicable to different styles. You can do this in a lot of different ways. I could go with a less twangy sound and so that's kind of a fun pattern right there. Fun little lick to play. You may be familiar with that type of a lick that you hear people like. A lot of classic rock guitar players use this. Obviously a lot of modern players too, but I grew up on classic rock, so I hear that in Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix, those kind of players. They do a lot of stuff like that, and that is a similar idea where we're just doing a bar here, second fret. This is kind of like F sharp minor, the relative minor of A, so it's still in the same parent key. And then I'm just bending that B up to the C sharp again to come meet this C sharp here. And that's a fun sound. Another one we got in this position is perfect fourth here. Same place we were barring our pinky to do this one. I'm going to use two fingers. And you'll notice a theme kind of emerging with a lot of these double stop patterns. They're going to be based on a finger position that is a perfect fourth in most of the cases. then we're just going to be bending the lower note to go up to create the interval of a third, whether it's a major third or minor third. And that one in particular bends this E note up to an F sharp, and you have the A on top, so that works well over F sharp minor, where you have the root bending up to the root note. But also in a major situation, doing this one really outlines, it's 2 notes out of 3 notes of the 4 chord, the D major chord. It's F sharp and A. So if you had a pattern that was going from 1 to 4, you could do the A major one, then the D major. And that's a cool sound for following the chord, using kind of chord tones. And chord tone soloing is something, a term we use for when we're, instead of playing over static scale, when the chords are changing, to do chord tone soloing, you would follow kind of the chord tones of the chord that's being played at the time. So instead of just playing, maybe A major pentatonic over both chords, which would work and sound just fine, you could outline it when it goes to the D. And if that's D, that makes this E. So right there you've got a pattern for a 1-4-5. And those are all kind of utilizing the exact same concept. We got it on 2 different string sets here. And those are the ones we're going to be focusing on today, the 2nd and 3rd string, and then the 1st and 2nd string. You can do these things on the lower strings, but bending those, the D, A, and E strings is a bit more difficult, and I just don't really do it much because it requires more strength and it can be tricky. So we're going to focus on that, on those string sets. So I want to bring you up to a 2nd inversion A major triad. And if you know your inversions, you can kind of follow me here. We got A and 2nd inversion down here. If I just kind of follow my triads up, and switch to the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string. Here I've got another A major triad in 2nd inversion. So here we're going to do the same thing. And that's the same thing we did down here, just an octave up. So I'm at the 12th fret, playing a perfect 4th, B and E, bending that B up to C sharp. And you'll notice this is the same finger pattern, same arrangement that we did down there. So that's cool. Another cool progression, if you want to get out of the 1-4-5, would be a 1, flat 7, 4. It's typical progression in certain rock songs and all sorts of songs. That's like 1, flat 7, 4. And if we do that with these bends, we could go the 1 chord A to the flat 7 chord G, down to the 4 chord D, and then we're back in that position for the A. So that's kind of a nice exercise. pattern. So I want to show how you can do these double stops through the whole scale. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at A major on 2 different strings, and we're going to look at single string scales, which is a good skill to know how to do this. If we start on A, here's our scale: B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. That's my A major scale on the first string. Now I'm going to play an A major scale starting from the 5th, E, on the 2nd string. So E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E. And when we put those together, we've got a scale in perfect fourths, and it's going to be the same exact fret for almost the whole time. There's one spot where we're going to have to change our fingering. So it's here, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret, 14th fret, and then here, it's the only place when you're playing a scale in perfect fourths, or in fourths, right here it would be an augmented fourth or a tritone. So I've got the 15th fret here, 16th fret here, and back to a perfect fourth at the 17th fret. So what I'm going to do in each of those positions is do a little bendy double stop. So we're going to go from here to here, bending a whole step on the 2nd string on each of those. Then here, we've got the 7th of the scale, which is G sharp, and it's only half step away from A, so you just got to bend a half step there. And there's one other spot where we're only going to bend a half step. Right here, we're going to be back to bending a whole step. Here again. And then here's our next spot at the 14th fret where we're going to bend a half step up. And then here is our tritone. This one is going to be a little bit awkward. And then that's back where we started. And then if we want to resolve the exercise so it sounds kind of complete, you can finish on this one, which is bending the 3rd string just like we did over here, but an octave up. So here's an exercise you can do to go through the whole scale with these. That gives you an idea of all the places you can do this in one key. You could, of course, follow a diatonic progression like a 1, 6, 4, 5 by starting at this one for A, the 1 chord, and then for the 6 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, and that's kind of a cool sound. Fun to play with these ideas, and I think that you'll find that these are nice to use kind of sparingly, not necessarily all the time, but I want to show you an idea that can extend their usefulness and help you hopefully come up with some more licks based on this idea. So here's just one idea where you're bending that note, you're kind of hitting the notes together, and then doing a little alternate picking from the first string and second string. I'm doing hybrid. Do it however you want, but and then releasing the bend back to the note down in the scale. One way to do it. You can come up with ideas of your own. Here's another variation you can do on these ideas is you can use the top note like we've been doing, and then also the note that's the next note down in the scale. So if I do that here, well, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get this third here. Then by moving my top note down to the next note in the scale, I'm going to get the note that's right next to the note that I'm bent up to. So in this case, it's when I bend this up a whole step, that this note right here is a half step away from it. So it creates kind of a cool little lick. So I can do this through the scale, and there's a couple positions that are going to be a little bit different, like this one. I'm going to switch my fingering to my middle two fingers because this is easier for me to get this one, because top note is only a half step down from, or the next note down from the top note is a half step away, so that fingering is easier for me. Jumped up an octave on that tritone one because down here that's a difficult bend to get that double stop this close to the nut, because as you get closer to the nut, the notes get a little harder to bend. So anyway, that is a fun little lick you can add to your playing. So if you're soloing, and there's another idea. I just went up to the lower note on the top string, and then went back down, and then up to that third. Thirds are always very consonant, meaning they have a very pleasant sound and aren't really notes that are kind of grinding. They really fit together well. Dissonance is when we have notes that are very they kind of grind against each other. They're very kind of ugly, but they can sound, dissonance can sound very beautiful, and it can also be a great effect, especially when you're using it in like a passing tone like that. Those are some fun ideas using these double stop bends. That's another thing you can do, is omitting, you know, the fourth and just going from a bent note to the very next note in the scale. Here it's very kind of slinky. Slinky, kind of bendy sound that's fun to add to solos. You can also do this trick on the next string set, second and third strings. There's that tritone. So, to just kind of wrap this idea up, you can also follow chord progressions on just the second and third string. So if I got a 1 chord here, to a 2 chord, to a 5 chord, to a 6 chord. Could follow that with these patterns. So 1 chord, I'm here on the 5th and 4th string. And I move up, move my perfect 4th up a whole step, and then got a half step bend here on the lower note for my 2 chord, B minor. To my 5 chord would be based on, here's the E chord, the 5 chord, and my perfect 4th here, 11th and 12th fret. And then my F sharp minor chord, 14th fret, 13th fret, and then bending a half step. So I can follow that chord progression: 1, 2, 5, 6. Could also go with my little scale lick. Could do it up on the next string, 1 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord down here, 6 chord. So when you're doing this, if you're doing it in a solo, you probably wouldn't want to do the exact same lick on each one. You could kind of change it up like I just did. So and come up with some different ideas of how to play them on each chord. But this is just another tool in the tool bag to help you come up with some different ways to play parts and to add an interesting sound to your solos. And I find this to be just kind of a fun sound to explore with. Anyway, so I hope that you find that interesting and fun as well. That's all I have to share for today. Hope you found this concept interesting and that you can play around with it and add some cool sounds to your soloing and your improvising ideas. So until next time, practice hard and remember to enjoy the journey of learning music, and I will see you in the next video.